All right, you probably saw the news last night at a post-fight press conference. Dana White announced the news that, well, it wasn't him. It was the T-Mobile Arena. They announced that Cyril Gane will be fighting John Jones. The relevance of that being that Francis Ngannou is not a part of the undisputed heavyweight title fight, which is coming up. And that is because he's parted ways with the company. After extensive negotiations, this has been going on for almost 2 years now between Dana White and Hunter Campbell. Dana said last night at the press conference that Hunter and Ngannou must have went to 350 dinners, talking over the finer points of the deal, trying to come to a conclusion, trying to come to a resolution, and trying to get the Predator back inside the octagon where he belongs. Listen, they couldn't come to a deal. He's gone away. He's a free agent. They're not going to hold on to that exclusive negotiation period. They've let him go completely. So Ngannou is, as of today, as of yesterday, as of whenever, he's a free agent. And he can fight wherever he wants. And I think, you know, when I hear that, it's sad. I love watching Francis fight. I mean, some of the entertainment he brought to the octagon was just jaw-dropping and also jaw-breaking. If you were one of the heavyweights on the receiving end of some of those punches, my God. I mean, think back to that fight against Alistair Overeem, that uppercut. He nearly decapitated poor old Alistair. My God. If there's one knockout that scares you to death, it is that one there. I mean, a lot of people in attendance that night thought that Ngannou might have actually, you know, taken away Overeem's ability to live. Might have killed him inside the octagon. But fortunately, that didn't happen. But my God, it was a scary one. Let's be honest. Now, the reality of the situation is that the Ngannou situation has been negotiated for about 2 years now. They couldn't come to a resolution. Dana White said last night at the post-fight press conference that Hunter and Ngannou talked a lot, couldn't come to it. And if he had have agreed to the deal that they offered, it would have made Ngannou the highest paid heavyweight fighter that they've ever had. Okay, now, according to MMA Junkie, I see here that Brock Lesnar was formerly the highest paid heavyweight fighter. Reportedly at UFC 200, they paid Brock Lesnar around $8 million, which is a hell of a lot of money. Prior to that, I think for his regular fights, he was getting somewhere in the region, again, according to MMA Junkie, somewhere in the region of $2 to $3 million. So certainly not a bad day's work, but Ngannou, you know, I think when he hears about potential fights with the likes of Tyson Fury in the boxing world, he's hearing these big numbers that they make and he wants to be a part of that, wants to make the most out of his career before it's time to hang it up and call it a day. And listen, good for him. That is his prerogative. We only get one career, we only get one body, and we're only young once. So you want to make the most of it. However, how do I feel about it? Well, if he was to go off and box Tyson Fury, in fact, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's hear from Dana White last night and see what he had to say.
Yes, T-Mobile blew the fight. That wasn't supposed to go up, but it did. This is for the official heavyweight title. You know, we've been working on a new agreement with Francis for like 2 years now. And we had gotten to a point where, you know, he was going to fight John Jones. And many who believe, including me, that he's the best of all time, you know, for the heavyweight championship. And John Jones has been willing and ready and able to fight anybody. He didn't care who it was. Could have been anybody in the heavyweight division. He was ready to go. And Francis, we offered Francis a deal that would have made him the highest paid heavyweight in the history of the company. More than Lesnar, more than anybody. And he turned the deal down. So, you know, I don't know, you know, we get to this point where I've told you guys this before. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. You know, I think Francis is in a place right now where he doesn't want to take a lot of risk. Feels like he's in a good position where he could fight lesser opponents and make more money. So we're gonna let him do that. We're gonna release him from his contract. We're gonna give up our right to match, and he can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants. Yeah, that's where we're at.
All right, so there it is. Yeah, Francis Ngannou no longer with the UFC, free to fight whoever. So, as I said, what are those options right now outside of the UFC? Without a question, when it comes to mixed martial arts, the UFC is the biggest player in town. And certainly when it comes to pay-per-views and all the rest of it, which is the bulk of where the money is made, okay? I think when he fought when he fought Cyril Gane, his disclosed pay was only $600,000, but it's the pay-per-view afterwards. Now, this new contract would have guaranteed much, much more up front, I'm assuming. And of course, on the back end, those points would have been higher as well. So outside the UFC, where's he going to go? Is he going to go to Bellator? You know, the Bellator heavyweight division doesn't really have too much to offer. Granted, they have deep pockets and they often pay over the odds for a lot of fighters that were with the UFC. That's not an insult to Bellator or any of the fighters, but generally fighters, you know, when they lose a few, they're out of the contract with the UFC. They go to Bellator and they get paid very, very well because Bellator's still trying to compete with the UFC. So they have to do that to attract them. And the heavyweight champion right now is Ryan Bader. I mean, could you really see Ryan Bader going in there against Francis Ngannou? I mean, the man can wrestle. Bader could take him down, but my God, it wouldn't be a fair fight because Ngannou's ridiculously bigger than him. Over at ONE FC, again, if you want to be a part of the biggest fights, I don't think ONE FC is going to handle it or going to be the fit for him. They're a champion right now. Anatolin Malaikin, I think you say. So, I mean, I'm sure he's a great fighter, but he's only 12-0. He's also the light heavyweight champion over at ONE FC. So, again, a smaller guy. Only weighs 225 pounds, according to Wikipedia right there. 12-0, 9 knockouts, 3 submissions. But again, I don't think that's the one. The one that Francis Ngannou really wants, and I think this is why he's willing to walk away from the UFC, which, again, I think he's mishandled that. I really do. I think more eyes would be on him in the mixed martial arts world. But it's that fight with Tyson Fury. Remember, after one of Fury's fights, I forget which one it was. I think it might have been Deontay Wilder. Not sure about that, but who cares? Francis Ngannou was there. And Tyson Fury was like, have you got a big Corey and all this stuff, referring to his penis size. And there's talks of that fight happening. Now, a one-off fight with the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, one of the best heavyweight boxers that we've ever seen, would generate a gigantic payday. There's no doubt about that. Tyson Fury is a massive star. A crossover fight with Francis Ngannou. I think the pay-per-views would be through the roof. I think there'd be a healthy appetite for that fight. But it's literally, realistically, going to be a one and done. You know, and I think, and this is no disrespect to Francis, in mixed martial arts, he's incredibly effective. In boxing, he will be incredibly effective, but he's also going to be kind of outskilled. When you look at Tyson Fury, a man that's 6'9", incredibly long, but one hell of a boxer. The speed that Tyson Fury possesses is unbelievable. And he's took the best shots of people like Deontay Wilder. So it's not like Tyson Fury can't take a shot. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that Francis couldn't catch him, because he could. He could catch him. And who knows, he might put him to sleep. And oh my God, what a scene that would be. But you got to think that more than likely Tyson Fury wins that fight. And I don't think I'm surprising anybody by saying that. Tyson Fury would more than likely, I'd say 9 times out of 10 win that fight. And don't get me wrong, I would root for Francis Ngannou. And that one-shot power that he has, that power of a Ford Escort going 1,000,000 miles an hour or whatever it is, of course, that's always a dangerous weapon to have. But there's more to it in boxing, you know? And I think Fury would win that fight. And then what does Francis Ngannou do after that? Does he continue trying to fight other boxers? Granted, there will be fights with like Derek Chisora, you know, there's an Anthony Joshua, there's a Deontay Wilder. So maybe there is a few big, massive boxing fights for him. You know, maybe that's the key. You know, maybe that's have a few boxing fights, earn $20, $30 million. Doesn't sound bad, does it? Doesn't sound bad at all, you know? But I think as a fighter, we also want the glory of winning. He's a mixed martial artist. He never grew up boxing. And to be fair, he didn't grow up mixed martial arting either. No, he didn't. But he's turned his skills and his natural talent and power and hunger and drive for ambition to becoming the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. But he's not anymore. He's not anymore. So what do you think? Because I think if he stayed with the UFC, him versus John Jones would have been a ridiculously big pay-per-view buy. The money he would have generated from that would have been phenomenal. You know, like you got to remember, you know, when you see champions, their guaranteed pay, right, is one thing, but the money they get on the back end, that quadruples it or even times it by 5 a lot of the time, you know. So he had the ability to make a lot of money in the UFC. And had he beaten John Jones, he could have cleared up the rest of the division. Granted, there's always newcomers. But still, it's a sad day. Francis Ngannou has walked away. Massive news. I didn't think he would do that. But of course, he's free to chase other opportunities. And I wish him all the best. All the best. I really do. I love what he brought to the octagon. Love his journey. I mean, talk about a man that's been through some adversity in his life. You know, I mean, it wasn't that long ago when he was a young man, grew up in Cameroon, working in the mines there, digging away, hard labor, and now here he is as the former UFC heavyweight champion of the world. So you can't hate on him. Congratulations to him and his UFC run. I wish him nothing but success going forward. But there's a little part of me that's sad to see him go. I loved him being a part of the octagon. I loved seeing the excitement that he brought, and I look forward to seeing what he brings to the rest of the world. But if he loses, does he go back to the UFC one day? And will that hurt him in future negotiations? Who knows? These are all if, buts, maybes. I don't know, purely hypothetical situations. But the fact remains he's not with the UFC. John Jones, Stipe Miocic going down March 4th. That's an unbelievable fight, but it's not. It's John Jones, Cyril Gane going down March 4th. Stipe Miocic gets the winner in July. And that's that. That is the news on the heavyweight division. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down there. All the best. Take care. See you soon.